Well, good morning. Welcome to another outing of Dropping Floats. We're going to do something a little unusual today, or different. I'm not going to be on the lower Deschutes. It's supposed to be in the mid-90s today. It's just too darn hot. So I'm heading up the mountain towards Mount Hood, and I'm going to fish a small little creek that I've fished in the past called Clear Creek. There's also a pretty neat campground right there, and I'll show you how to get there, kind of show you the amenities of the campground, and then also we'll get some fishing action in. None of the fishing in the creek are overly huge, but when you see the size of the creek, you understand why they're not, giant fish in there. So it should be a pretty exciting day. It looks like the firefighters have somewhat gotten the fire under control. I'm not hardly seeing any smoke. You wouldn't hardly know there was a fire in the area. It's about a 30-minute drive to this area from my house. I just fueled up, and we'll be getting there in no time. Like I said, there's three things we're going to accomplish. I'm going to show you the amenities at the campground. We're going to fish. And then the third thing I wanted to mention and try to achieve is Mount Hood has a GMRS repeater. It's probably the nearest one to Maupin. And I'm going to try to see if I can hit the repeater with my mobile radio from Clear Creek, and then maybe drive up a little further until I can hit it, just to make sure I have the radio set right to be able to get into repeaters, because there's GMRS repeaters all around Oregon. So if you spend a lot of time in the backcountry or off on the side roads, it's probably a good idea to get a GMRS radio or a ham. Both you need a license. The GMRS license is pretty much you just go online and purchase it. And the ham, there's a little more in-depth to get it. You gotta take a test and do some stuff. Right now I just have a GMRS. It's repeater capable, so I want to see if I can get into this Mount Hood repeater. So that's the other thing I'm going to try to accomplish today. Here's a shot of my radio. Nothing special. It's a Midland MXT 275. It's one of the most kind of basic GMRS radios you can get. It doesn't have a lot of additional features that can just be confusing. So yeah, so far I'm pretty happy with it. It's built really well. It feels great in the hand. And we are a Midland dealer at the store, so if you decide you want to get one, give me a call at the store and we can get one ordered up from Midland for you. Anywho, I'm going to keep on driving, and I'll see you here in a little bit in the future. Well, here's what the turn looks like coming from Maupin. There's the sign. It says, probably can't read it on video, but it says Clear Creek Campground. It's a right, and then it's another 3 or 4 miles down this road to the campground, and then you actually cross Clear Creek before you get to the campground. But there's good access and parking at the campground. It's a pretty neat little area. It's part of the McCubbins Gulch ATV area. So if you're looking to come out here, you can Google that and you can definitely find it. I probably wouldn't say this is a destination fishery if you're coming from, some distance away. Unless you're into camping and hiking. The campground's really nice. It never gets overly busy, and there's some good hiking trails that leave right from the campground, so that's pretty cool. And then some of the trails go right along the river for a while that you'll see that I'll use to access the different little holes that we'll fish today. It's a very small creek. It's Gen Clear, so I'll show you some setup changes that I'll make. I haven't decided if I'm gonna. I brought 2 rods. I brought my center pin, my smallest center pin, which is an 11 foot, and then I brought just a basic 5-weight fly rod, which both rods are a little big for this creek, but it's pretty much the only fly rod that I have, and that's my smallest pin rod, is an 11 footer. TFO does make a really neat trout panfish rod. It's a light rod. It's 8 foot that I think I'll probably eventually get. It's one of their newer models this year. I have one in the store for sale. They've been selling pretty good. I haven't taken one home, but I've handled it, and it could be a great little rod for flinging spinners, and a small stream float rod. I think it could be wonderful. So I'll probably end up trying that out at some time. Well, and here's what the turn into the campground looks like. It's pretty obviously marked, and then it turns to gravel down yonder here on the road, and we'll work our way down the entrance here and get parked and start getting ready to hit the water. Well, we've made it to Clear Creek. Just as I suspected, there's only one person here camping. It's a pretty low use campground, considering how busy some can get in the summer. But it is a Tuesday, so maybe that's it. But anywho, here's a shot of Clear Creek. As you can tell, it's extremely different than the lower Deschutes water. It is definitely a creek, which is gonna prompt me to do some pretty different setups, changes to the center pin to be able to fish it. Again, it's shallow. It's not an ideal fishery for a pin rod, but that's what makes it fun, is to take something that's not ideal and find success with it. The fish in this creek are very beautiful with their color, so I'm looking forward to getting some of those on film. But let's go ahead and head back to the truck, and I'm going to show you some of the setup changes I'm going to do to the pin rod, and we'll get on the water here shortly. Okay, so here we are. Here's the current setup on the rod I'll be using today. Try to get that glare off. About a foot down to a tiny Paragon. Have a tail, another bit of leader. So that's what, about 2 foot. And then the float up here. I'm gonna be running a clear float. Clear Creek is pretty much Gen Clear, so we're gonna definitely be using a clear float. I'm gonna shorten this all up, take a section of this leader out, this tippet, and then just run 1 12-inch, and I may try a tag off the upper swivel that divides the main line from the tippet. So that's how I'm going to shorten it up. Going to go to a clear float. I'll go to a smaller one if I have one with me. I'm not sure if I do. This is a 5-gram clear float. Going to go as fine and delicate as I can. Just don't know if I have a finer clear float. Oh, look. The rod I'm using today, it's a Loomis float rod. It's one of my favorite rods. And then I'm running just a Raven Matrix 4 3/8 reel, 8-pound main line, and I step it down to, I think, 4 or 5X on the tippet. But that's the change we're gonna make because of the water conditions in the river we're dealing with, and we'll get some trout here on video shortly. Alright, on the river fishing, or on the creek rather. I've had one take so far. The difficulty of these little tiny little fish is the hook set. It's I don't do an elaborate hook set anyways, even on the Deschutes. That was a snag. But it's more of just like a wrist flick, kind of like a Euro. The guy would set the hook. But on this little creek, it is so difficult to get the hook set without, you know, completely like ripping the fish's face off and pulling it out of the water. It's very minute little movements with the rod tip. And granted, this rod is a little big for this river, but the smallest one I had, so I'll have to make do. I'm gonna keep working my way down. I kind of made a mortal mistake here, and I typically tuck the camera in the front pocket of my wader. Well, today I'm wet wading, so now I minus that pocket, and I'm definitely missing it. So I'm making do, but some of the footage is gonna be a little harder to get on this trip. Now, when you're fishing these little streams, you really want to fish the edges and the cover very thoroughly. The river's gin clear, it's very small, so these fish are going to be very skittish. They'll be tucked up like on that log down there, right on the inside underneath that log. They might be tucked up underneath that little hanging grass on the right. You really got to fish cover. And I like to get the pin out in front of me and then work down the river. The depth is a challenge. I'm trying to trot it through this shallow, but it's not working with me right now. Let me get it past that shallow. There we go. And I'm going to try to get it over to that edge where that log is and see if I can't get something over there. Nope. Oh, there we go, there we go. Well, nothing's happening here. We're gonna keep moving on down. I went from one fly out on point and a tag to down just to a fly, just going a little finer. I think that extra tag fly might have been just too much, and they was scaring the fish off. Haven't been at it very long. We'll keep working through on down here, try to find some little bit deeper water for the pin, and go from there. Alright, I think I got a little guy on. Yeah. Look at the color of these fish once I get it up here. They're beautiful. Yeah. Oh, well, he came off. Benefits of being barbless. He ate that. I wish I could have got him so you could see the color, but I caught him while recovering from falling in the river. I'm multi-talented, I guess. A little guy here. See if I can't get the color up so you can see it. Absolutely beautiful fish. In you go. Well, it's taken a while, but I've gotten two landed. This is typically a place I come up and I'll catch 10, 12, 15. But it's been a little slow today. I've been trying to figure it out where the fish are hanging out at, and both of those were caught in a real slow, flat, kind of just right out in front of me there. So yeah, maybe I'll start focusing on that kind of water a little bit more. Little guy. There he goes. And he comes off. Well, that flat's been pretty productive out there. We'll see if I can't get another one there. Well, all right. I think I've started to figure out where the fish are hanging out at. In the deeper areas, in the much calmer water is where I have found success. There haven't been any kind of ripples or anything. They've been hanging out almost in frog water, which is kind of unusual. But I've started to get consistent hookups and have landed a handful now. So that's pretty fun. That first one that I caught was probably the largest so far that I didn't get on film. He was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches, which is pretty big for this tiny little creek. But there's a flat right here I'm gonna want to fish. The depth looks about right, and it's that almost what I'd call froggy looking stuff, but that's where they've been hitting the fly. So I don't know, that's why they call it fishing, right? You got to figure it out. So I'm gonna get down in there somehow. It's pretty brushy right here, but I'm gonna get down in there and hopefully get some hookups on film. These are just the most beautiful trout. Starting to pick up a little bit. I think it also helps that I've located the kind of water they're hanging out in. Been getting a lot of action out in this little flat. Just letting it float and meander on down through there. So let's see if we can't get another couple out of here before we move. Pretty good sized one for this little creek. There we go. He actually hit it like a normal trout would. There was no playing around. That's awesome. Gonna work this tail right here. See if I can't get anything on camera. Oh, there it is. That little subtle whoop of the float is all it is. And then with this rod is just way too big for this little creek and these small fish. It's the lightest one I had, but it's really hard not to overset. See if we can't get that guy. He's teasing us. He is teasing us. Nope. That might be a stick. That's pretty consistently in the same spot. There's a fish. All right. Look at that little guy. Yeah. Holy smokes. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh, I had you good right in the snout. Very pretty fish. In you go. Well, hopefully that take will show up on camera so you can see how subtle and light these takes are. So it's really hard not to pull the gear out of the water, but set it hard enough to catch the fish. So it's definitely a finesse game right here. And I'm trying to play the finesse game with a baseball bat. So got another fish. Pretty good sized one. Look at the color on that thing. Holy cow. Alright. Get a close up here. Color is just beautiful. Get him back in the water. Absolutely a beautiful colored fish. That's my favorite part about fishing up this little creek is how colorful the fish are. What we got here? So about a mile out. I'm gonna head back to the truck and probably call it a day. Might hit a couple of the same holes that I hit on the way down. We'll see. Or I might go back and get the dry fly rod. I don't know. See what I feel like once I get back. This might be fish of the day. Get him in here. Yeah, I think it is fish of the day. That's a nice fish for up here. Check him out. Nice fish. So big he made a kaplunk, putting him back in. It's about as big as I've caught up here. I'm sure there's some 12 inchers hiding in here. Maybe even some 15, but I haven't found them yet. All right, well, just got back to the house from a few hours on Clear Creek. I was gonna go over my final setup and what was working. So this was the final float setup that I ended up with. It was a 5 gram clear with the shot right at the base of the float to about 12 inches of leader. The fly changes I did, I started out with this guy. Oop, he's moving kind of quick on you. There we go. As a tag up on the swivel, it wasn't getting a lot of action on that, so it's either fly, so tag off at the top and then the fly on the bottom. So I was running 2 flies. I think it was just too much in the water for that little Clear Creek. They're pretty skittish. The water's super clear, so I think it was just too much going on. So I went to just a single fly, kind of held the setup that I had, single fly. I started out with the single with this guy here. Not really sure the name of the fly, but it's a small streamline kind of Euro style fly. Did very well, caught a lot of fish on it. They were really keen on it, pretty good. I struggled all day with hook sets, getting good clean hook sets and catching the fish. Mainly because my rod was a little too stiff for that small of fish and small of stream. So I had to be really easy and it was still kind of pulling it out. But to help with that, I went to the smaller nymph. This is one of my patterns. It doesn't have a name, but let me get there with the pliers and get it up close so you can see it. It's got a multicolored bead, kind of like a rainbow bead. It's got kind of a coppery body, and then this kind of pink and brown little stringy flashy stuff. I use that a lot. That seems to be pretty productive, but it's a smaller hook, probably like a 18 or so. The one I started out with was a 16. This did help going to the smaller hook, because the fish were so small. More consistent hookups than with the size 16. But all in all, it was fun. It's beautiful up there. Like I said, it's probably not a destination river to like drive to. But if you're here fishing the Deschutes and you get hot and you want to fish an evening or a morning, it's only about a 20-minute drive up there. It shows up on Google Maps. You just type in Clear Creek Campground. Then it gets you up in the forest, and it's always much cooler there. The fish were pretty active hitting the float at the surface. I probably should have used my dry fly rod, but I didn't. I don't like carrying two rods, so I went with the center pin, and the dry fly rod sat on the truck. But I probably should have took it and then maybe did like a dry dropper type of thing, or just dry, because they were consistently hitting this float, which pretty much tells me you could almost fish any dry fly and they're going to take it if they're hitting this big thing. So that's a wrap. Like and subscribe. The channel is growing, and as always, a lot of this float fishing, center pin fishing, whatever you want to call it, I do have it in the eBay store. I always put the link in the video description. So